I graduated with a bachelor's from Cambridge and master's from Imperial. And yet, I was unemployed for 2 months. No job, no clear direction, no idea what I was doing. And if you're in that position right now, trust me, you are not alone. Here are 5 mistakes I have made that I hope you don't make as well. For some context, I did a natural sciences degree from Cambridge and a science communication master's from Imperial. I knew I didn't want to go into scientific research, but beyond that, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I also wasn't in a desperate rush or pressure to start earning immediately. So my biggest challenge during unemployment wasn't financial, but mental. The uncertainty, the fear, the feeling that I should have got it all figured out by now. If any of this resonates, I hope what I'm about to share right now makes you feel a little less aimless and less alone. Mistake number 1. Waiting for clarity. Nothing prepares you for your first job hunt. For most of my life, the path was clear. At school, I worked towards getting into a top-tier university. At university, I worked towards graduating. And during my master's, I worked towards completing my dissertation. The image I like to think about is that for 21 years of my life, I've been learning to swim through rivers. Rivers that have been flowing faster and faster and faster and faster. And suddenly at the end of my master's, this super rapid river just emptied itself out into this ginormous ocean. And this ocean was no longer flowing fast, and my whole life seemed to really slow down. Not really in a good way. I felt I had no direction, no clear sense of what I was doing, just this vast, overwhelming sense of what next? For the first month of my job hunt, I felt stuck. I had no dream job, I had no sense of ambition driving me forward, and that really terrified me. Half of my fear came from external expectations. For my whole life, I've been an overachiever. I was a topper at school, I got into Cambridge, I graduated from Cambridge, got into Imperial, graduated from Imperial with a distinction, and now people were asking me what next, and I had no answer. Nothing I could do next could top what I had already accomplished. And the other half was internal. I knew how hard I worked, I knew how much I had to overcome as an international student, and yet here I was feeling lost. I was scared that I wouldn't reach my maximal potential, and I started doubting everything. Had I picked the wrong degrees? Should I have done more internships? Had I networked enough? I never had a dream job or a dream career path. At school, I expected undergrad to give me clarity. At undergrad, I expected masters to give me clarity. And at the end of the masters, I didn't feel like I had this so-called clarity. I didn't even know what that meant. That came with a lot of fear and anxiety, and I often spiraled down these rabbit holes of regret, till I realized something crucial. It's okay to not know what's next. Clarity doesn't come from sitting and waiting, it comes from action. I realized that my comfort will not come from clarity. Rather, it would come from knowing that what I'm going through right now is not all that new. Looking back, I've been thrown into many deep ends before, and somehow I've always figured it out. This was just another deep end, another challenge, another opportunity to learn. So if you're feeling lost, remind yourself you don't need clarity to take the next step. You just need to take the next step. Or, as Swami Chinmayananda put it, start walking and the path will become clear. Mistake number 2. Wanting to learn all the lessons beforehand. When I was job hunting, I was stuck in the cycle of overthinking. Should I go for something creative? Should I stay closer to my academic background? What if I commit to something and I just hate it? Here's the truth. You can research a job all you want, but you'll never really know if it's right for you until you're in it. It's like trying to learn how to swim by reading a book. At some point, you just have to get into the water. I've spoken to over 50 people recently about their career paths, and the overwhelming commonality from all of these conversations is that most people only find what they enjoy doing after doing a lot of work. And this sometimes involves a lot of random jobs along the way. The retirement age in the UK is 66. So if you start working at 22, that's 40 whole years of working. Framing it like this helps me remember how young I am and how early stage my career currently is. No decision is as permanent or life-changing as you make it out to be. Some things I thought I'd love didn't seem as appealing anymore. And some things I'd never considered before turned out to be really interesting. And that's the biggest lesson. You don't need to figure out your entire career path before you start your first job. Here's what you can do instead. Don't overthink your first step. Your first job isn't your forever job. It's just a starting point. It's okay if it's not perfect or ideal. Pay attention to what excites you. Instead of obsessing over the perfect choice, notice what parts of the job you genuinely enjoy and let that guide your next steps. And finally, commit to making the most of every opportunity. I believe that no experience is wasted if you're learning from it. Even a job you don't love can teach you many valuable skills and help refine what you do want. At the end of the day, you cannot learn all the lessons beforehand, but you can trust that you'll learn them along the way. So take the step, start where you are. Commit to maximizing learning over anything else in the early stages of your career. Mistake number 3, keeping options too open. So in my job hunt, because I didn't have clarity, I had this massive fear of choosing wrong. I kept thinking, what if I choose something now and then close doors that I might need later? What if there's something better out there that I haven't discovered yet? And because of that fear, I tried to do what so many of us do. I tried to keep all my options open. I applied to jobs in wildly different fields. I considered moving back home. I even thought maybe I should take a gap year and just figure things out later. I was optimizing for maximal flexibility. But in reality, I was just delaying making a decision. Here's the paradox. Limiting your options now actually expands your opportunities in the long run. Because when you focus on one thing, you give yourself time to get really good at it. And expertise creates opportunities. But keeping your options too open limits your opportunities. Because when you spread yourself too thin, you never go deep enough to build mastery in anything. At some point, I had to ask myself, are you falling into the pattern of mastering one thing or always chasing the next thing? And honestly, I was the latter. The turning point for me was the realization you don't have to pick the perfect thing. You just have to pick something and give it a real shot. Instead of applying to 20 different jobs, I started asking myself, what is one area that I'm genuinely curious about and willing to explore for the next 2 months? That shift changed everything. I stopped spreading my energy so thin. I started actually making progress instead of endlessly debating options. And most importantly, I was actually feeling like I was moving forward. Because at the end of the day, momentum beats overthinking. So if you're stuck in decision paralysis like I was, ask yourself, what is one thing I'm willing to commit to for the next 2 months or 6 months or 1 year? That one decision could open more doors than you ever imagined. Mistake number 4, obsessing over one piece of a puzzle. By the time you graduate, whether it's undergrad or postgrad, you're probably somewhere in your 20s. Now, I've only been in my 20s for around 3 years, but that's been more than enough time to know how chaotic this stage of life can be. There's so much variance, so much uncertainty, and so much rapid change. Think about it. If adulthood started at 18, then at 21, you're basically a 3-year-old adult. A friend of mine puts it best. Our early 20s are like the toddler years of adulthood. There's huge emotional, social, and cognitive development happening all at once. And when you look around people your age, you'll realize how wildly different everyone's journey is. Some are navigating their first serious relationships, some are healing from breakups, some are in stable long-term ones, some are figuring out friendships, some are struggling with loneliness, some are dealing with health challenges, physical, mental, or both. Some are questioning their purpose, while others seem like they have everything figured out. Now, this is what really helped me, and I call it the jigsaw puzzle perspective. While on the job hunt, I was still pouring lots of time and energy into other areas of my life. I was taking running and yoga seriously, my physical health. I was diving deeper into my cultural roots and spiritual practices, my spiritual health. I was navigating friendships, changing family dynamics, and my relationship, my emotional side. And yet, despite having so many meaningful things in place, my brain kept telling me, you're behind, you're failing, you haven't figured out your career yet. Until one day I zoomed out and realized life is a jigsaw puzzle. I had spent so much time fitting my other pieces together, and I was proud of them. So my puzzle wasn't empty, just one piece was missing. And I saw friends who had their career piece maybe perfectly placed, but were struggling with other pieces in their life, be it health, family, or relationships. This is when it hit me. Life isn't linear. You don't complete one piece before moving to the next. Everything is shifting constantly. And when you get stuck obsessing over one missing piece, you forget how much of the puzzle is already beautifully coming together. It's okay if one piece of your life isn't perfect right now. Instead of letting that overshadow everything, acknowledge all the areas where you are thriving. And finally, life doesn't wait for you to complete one piece before moving on. Keep putting in effort where it's needed, but don't forget to nurture all the pieces that are already in place. This shift in perspective gave me so much peace and confidence. It reminded me that I am doing okay, just figuring it out one piece at a time. And if you're in that place right now, feeling stuck on one missing part of your life, take a step back, look at the bigger picture. You might be further along than you think. If you're finding this video helpful right now, please don't forget to subscribe and share this video with a friend who might also benefit from it. Share the love, make the world a better place. Now moving on to my final mistake of the day. Assuming doors will open for me. Okay, let's talk about something a lot of us secretly wonder, but don't always say out loud. Does the Oxbridge brand name even matter? When I graduated, I kind of assumed, okay, I've done the hard part, I have the degree, I went to Cambridge, I went to Imperial. Surely the opportunities will just appear. Spoiler alert, they don't. I applied to jobs and got ghosted. I sent applications into black holes. I watched people with different backgrounds, different universities, get opportunities I was supposed to have premium access to. And this really made me question, did Cambridge even mean anything? Now here's the truth. A brand name can open doors, but it won't walk you through them. Yes, having a degree from a top university might get your application looked at. It might even give you an intro call with a recruiter. But after that, it's your work ethic, your adaptability, your ability to prove yourself that actually matter. Now, I don't want any new grads to feel disillusioned, especially international students. If you're expecting your degree to carry you into the career you want, you're going to be disappointed. But if you use it as a tool, as something that helps you get your foot in the door, while understanding that it's your personality that determines whether you stay in the room, that's when it actually helps. Ironically, the most useful thing I got from Cambridge wasn't the name. It was this: the ability to constantly learn and trust myself to figure things out. Because the real world doesn't care how comprehensive your lecture notes are. It cares about how quickly you can adapt, how well you can handle steep learning curves, how willing you are to be thrown into the deep end and swim. And that's the mindset shift that changed everything for me. Instead of seeing my degree as a ticket, I started seeing it as proof. Proof that I've handled pressure before, proof that I've learned difficult things from scratch, and proof that I've always figured it out, no matter how overwhelming things have been. Now, what does this mean for you? Firstly, your degree is not your identity. It's a stepping stone, not the entire path. What you do with it matters far more. Secondly, your best asset isn't your university name, it's your ability to learn. Every job, every industry, every career path requires adaptability and a certain degree of starting from scratch. The faster you embrace that, the easier things will be. Thirdly, no one is coming to hand you opportunities. You still have to put yourself out there, make connections, and prove your value. The name might get you in the door, but you have to walk through it. And more than anything, trust yourself. Whatever you don't know, you will figure it out. You always have. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Please don't forget to give the video a like if you enjoyed that content, and let me know down below in the comments below what you'd like to see next. Clearly, I've been away from this for long enough that I forgot to film an outro. So this is Editing Sharvani signing off. Take care. Bye bye.